I'm Michelle Norris. I'm the Geary Institute Director, for those of you who haven't met me. You're all very welcome, so thanks for coming along today to our seminar. And I'd like to introduce Diego Muñoz from the University of Valencia, who's presenting a joint paper with my colleague Stephan Köppe from the School of Social Policy, Social Work and Social Justice. And Diego is one of the visitors under the Building International Collaboration Supports seed funding scheme the Institute runs for its members. And we fund collaborators to come from abroad to spend some time in the Institute and collaborate as an Institute member. So it's a great way of extending connections, and it's a great pleasure to have Diego visiting us on the scheme. And we will be opening applications for another round of BICS in February next year. If anybody's interested in applying, you're very welcome. So Diego is going to present. Stephan, I think, is also going to do questions, take questions. And if you could keep your questions to the end, we're recording it for our website, so it just makes the editing much easier. So thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It's a pleasure for me being here for a second time, but this time I really appreciate the support received by the Institute and for giving me the opportunity to present this research entitled Non-Take-Up and Poverty Reduction, the Case of the Working Family Payment. And I don't want to spoil you, but you might be surprised by the result that I'm going to present in the seminar. So first of all, just to present myself, I'm assistant professor at the Department of Applied Economics of the University of Valencia in Spain, and I'm member of the Public Economic Evaluation Research Group. For me, that is so important because all my expertise are related to the non-take-up or take-up of the minimum income schemes in Spain, but also into the in-work benefits here in Ireland, because it's the second paper working with the working family payment. My expertise has a strong impact or is influenced by the policy evaluation, because all the purpose of our research is to give new insights to try to improve the schemes that we are analyzing. And also I use microsimulation methods because we are not interested in the whole population. In our survey, we are only interested in specific populations that we have to simulate. My last publication, I especially focus on the minimum income schemes in Spain because the system is a really mess. We have almost 20 different minimum income schemes, so measure the non-take-up is really quite complicated. Then the first paper that I have done with Stephan and my supervisors during the PhD, in which we have analyzed the non-take-up in the working family payment and also the determinant of it. And a last paper in which we have analyzed how the normative characteristics of the minimum income schemes could have an impact in increasing or decreasing the non-take-up and the coverage achieved by them. But I want to focus on the presentation and the new paper that we are working on. So I have to say I have to share the main conclusions of the first papers because these main conclusions motivated a follow-up paper and motivated my visiting here as a BICS beneficiary. So our main conclusions for the working family payment is that they have a higher non-take-up rates. We will see later which are these rates. Also, working family payment is affected by the benefit erosion. And because of that, year by year, the number of eligible households for receiving the benefits is lower. And finally, some policy design features that we consider that is necessary to show also. This paper will focus on these three main conclusions, and we will see later. What was our first results? Our first results, I'm talking for the previous research. Our result was that the non-take-up ranged between 63% to 76% during the period analyzed. I completely forgot what is the definition of non-take up. Non-take up is the situation in which a family or household is entitled for receiving a benefit, but finally is not receiving it. Okay? Because I'm talking about non-take up, but if I never define it. So this is the previous situation. As you can see, the non-take up is reducing during the period, but it is not happening because of a better targeting of the scheme. It's happening because a declining and a strong declining in the eligibility. So year by year, the number of households entitled for receiving the working family payment is lower. And because of that, the non-take up is also lower. But it's necessary because we will talk about the household eligible during all the presentation. And it's happening because the income threshold were not adjusted to the wage or to the inflation rate or to other index, which is called benefit erosion. And then related to the main policy design features, we consider that in the working family payment is happening a situation of fairness because the self-employees are not eligible for receiving the benefits. And because of that, the households in which one or more income earners are self-employees has lower take-up of this scheme. We discuss also how to avoid non-take-up, with the main recommendation could be a tax credit system, just to automatize the benefit. And also, what we consider is also an important result, the extra income that the working family payment could give to a household is not enough to cover the childcare provision for the children. That's important because some households decided not to work more hours. And it's done because the childcare provision is more expensive than the income that they could achieve in the labor market. And also, there are interactions with other schemes, mainly the job seeker allowance or the one-parent family payment. And these interactions are affecting badly to the working family payment. And now, moving to our research with this background, our objective now is to measure the poverty reduction and the intensity of poverty effects of the working family payment, mainly from 2014 to 2023. Why 2014? Because we can't identify the working family payment in USIC before 2014, so we can't move before this year. Also, update the non-take-up rates after COVID, 2020, 2023, and again, develop policy recommendations just to improve the approach of the working family payment. And how we will do it with descriptive analysis based in the database, the microsimulation techniques, as I said before, and we will try to develop a logistic regression just to identify which are the main risks to be in poverty, mainly related to our households in which we are interested. But that's work in progress because this is an ongoing research, and the result had changed yesterday and probably result changed during this week. But it's our purpose to develop also a model trying to explain that. Again, what is the working family payment? Working family payment is a scheme and which main policy aims is to reduce child poverty and to increase work incentives for the household that are receiving it. It's a very early no benefit, but after that it was called a family income supplement, but is the same. And the issue of the low take-up, which is the opposite of non-take-up, was from the study of Callan in 1995. So it's a situation that is now for the scientifics. So what eligibility rules has to meet a household to be eligible for the working family payment? First of all, has to be an employee working 38 hours or more during the fortnight, so every 2 weeks. That can be combined with the spouse or civil partner, so it's a eligibility criteria that take into account the household situation. At least minimum 3 months of job And it's obvious, one child in household, because it's for families that are working. Then, after meeting these three main characteristics, another one is earn less than the threshold. So we have to compare the assessable income of our household, the income threshold of the working family payment, and if it's below, it's eligibility for it. Then the working family payment covers the 60% of this gap. And as I said previously, self-employed are not eligible for the work threshold, but the incomes are taken into account. Because of this, probably most of households that has self-employed incomes are not taking the benefit. Just an example, imagine a situation in which we have a family with 3 children, the man is working and the spouse is in an illness benefit, and the weekly family income is near to 700 euros. The income limit from the working family payment in 2023 is 793 euros. So the scheme covers the 60% of the difference. And finally, the total disposable income of this household is, or will be, 754 euros. And there is just an important result that I will repeat during all my presentation. If we compare this total disposable income with the equalized poverty rate, taking into account the Irish weights, this household, even is receiving the working family payment, will be in a situation of poverty. So, in this case, the working family payment is not enough to live on the situation of poverty. Then, related to the no uses, I have commented previously, so I don't want to talk more about that. Related to data, as I say, we are using USILC, which is a general purpose survey that has some problems that we have to face with that. It's not specifically designed for our analysis, so we could have, for example, missing information, we could have situation of undercoverage and these kind of things. But we have to deal with these problems because the main advantage of the USILC is that it's readily available and give us the opportunity to use large data sets to analyze different years and to analyze the changes during these years. So, moving to the methodology, first of all, we have simulated the poverty threshold of the working family payment and compare with the income threshold related to the poverty rate. In this case, as I said previously, we are using the Irish equivalent scales, in which we compare the amount of the benefit with the poverty threshold. Why the Irish equivalence scale? Because there is a very specific scheme created for the Irish situation, and it allows also to compare with the official statistics provided by the government. I will see later, probably we compare also with using the OECD scale, but for now, it's just with the Irish equivalent scale. So, first analysis, comparing the poverty threshold. The second analysis, the poverty analysis. In this, to analyze the effects on reducing poverty of the working family payments, it's necessary to simulate 3 different scenarios. First of all, the baseline scenario in which we just take the situation in Ireland. We just we just simulate directly in USIL because it's the current situation in Ireland. Then, 2 different scenarios are simulated. First of all, a scenario in which we drop the working family payment. So for the current beneficiaries of the working family payment, we delete these incomes and recalculate the new equivalent scale, just to analyze if the situation is worse or not, depending on that. And then another scenario, which is an ideal scenario in which the take-up of the scheme was 10%. It was a situation of full take-up. In this sense, what we have done is to impute to the eligible household the working family payment amount to which they are entitled. And using that, we can cover both the total non-take up, which is the situation for a household that is not receiving the benefit, and the partial non-take up, in which is receiving the benefit, but less than they are eligible for. So these are our three main scenarios, and then we will see which are the situation in all of them. Then, related to the poverty analysis, the FGT index are used because they are well known in our field, and it is simple to understand the results that are provided by them. The FGT just changing the alphas, changing the index that it provides to us, some things. If alpha is 0, is the headcount index, to which is just the proportion of population that is poor. So it's the proportion of population that is below the poverty threshold. Then, if alpha is equal to 1, is the poverty gap index that measures the extent to which individual is below the poverty line. So give us information about how much the incomes have to increase to avoid a situation of poverty. And finally, if FGT is equal to 2, is the square poverty gap index that measures the poverty severity, because it gives more weight to the poorest, so give us the information about the poverty severity. But the results for the FGT2 are not available yet, so I don't want to focus on that. Moving to the results. As I said, preliminary results. First of all, taking into account the poverty threshold and the working family payment. As we can see in the table, if the number is below 100, the working family payment is not enough to live of a situation of poverty to the household. So even the household is receiving the working family payment, they will keep in a situation of poverty. And as you can see, year by year, the adequacy of the working family payment is decreasing up to 2023. But the result, this accumulation of lack of adequacy will have important effects, and we will see in the next slide. And it's also important that the household size matters, because two-parent households are increasingly below the poverty threshold with the working family payment. So please remember that year by year, the adequacy of the working family payment is decreasing. Then, why does it happen? It's happening because the increase in incomes, which is the blue bar, are lower compared to the increase of the working family payment, which is the red bar. As you can see, only in 2023 or 2024 it matches. But this match is not enough to cover all the gap that has been generating year by year. So this recent catch-up does not address the long-term decline. This is called, as I said, the benefit erosion. And this benefit erosion has an important effect on then if the working family payments achieve the poverty reduction aims or not. Okay. Because of the declining of the adequacy of the working family payment, we have also a decline in the number of households eligible for the working family payment. So if we compare the first years in our sample, in which we are more than 200,000, we lost half of our possible potential beneficiary household in just 4 years. The green line is the eligible population, so it's the potential household that could receive the working family payment. The blue line is the current beneficiary, so it's provided by the official statistics. And as you can see, the green line and the red line are directly related because the declining of the eligibility leads also to a declining in non-take-up. But this declining in non-take-up is not, as the same result of the previous paper, is not because of the better targeting of the scheme. It's just because we have less households entitled to receive it. So this is, we consider that the green line is one of the most important results of the research, because even it increasing again due to the updating of the income threshold is not enough to cover all the gap that they have lost. And as you can see, the strong decline is during COVID, probably because they happen in multiple changes in the labor market, or the benefit payments, and the kind of things. But this is directly linked with the rising national incomes, which is also presented in the previous slide, and the insufficient indexing of the working family payment. So, remember the green line. If we lose half of our potential eligible household, we will lose also our potential in poverty reduction of the working family payment. We have also here in red the current poverty, so which is the situation in Ireland directly, and then the two different scenarios that I have presented previously. The blue line is the situation in which we drop the working family payment, so it's the situation if the working family payment doesn't exist, and the green line is the idyllic situation in which the working family payment achieves a full take-up. This massive declining in the poverty rate only happened to 2020 because of, as I said previously, the declining in the eligibility. Here is for the total population in Ireland, and as you can see, without the working family payment, the poverty rate will increase almost 1%, but in a situation of full take-up, the poverty rate could decrease 4.5 percentage points. And as I said previously, the benefit erosion of the working family payment, of the income threshold, means that despite these families are receiving the working family payment, they can't not live of a situation of poverty. And because of that, these two lines are closer 2020 onwards. Okay? Then just some controls for our results. Household in poverty work less than household in no poverty and receive higher incomes. Okay, but just a control. And as I'm saying that the effect on poverty reduction of the working family payment is lower now, if we take into account the severe poverty, we eradicate it due to the scheme. So to face the severe poverty, the working family payment is more than enough. Also, if we take the 50% of the media, in which the poverty falls up to zero, more or less. Related to the intensity of poverty, in which we are working now, the working family payment also decrease the intensity of poverty proportionality. As I said, the FGT1 measure the gap between the incomes and the poverty threshold. So it's also decreasing if the working family payment achieve a full take-up, or increase if the working family payment does not exist. But related to that, more analysis are needed, and we will continue working on that. And finally, for the last result, the last preliminary result, we want also to answer the question on how to reduce poverty for the eligible population. That's so basic logistic regression is the first step, so we will continue working on it, including other variables as a control, and maybe changing our approach to have a more accurate approach to this question. But the result for this basic model show that increasing working hours is a way out of in-work poverty, which mirrors the existing literature because the coefficient is negative, and increasing the number of children increase the poverty risk, which also mirrors other researchers presented. It has, we consider, two main policy implications, because the increasing working hours requires other analysis on what are the working patterns within the families, what are the relations with, for example, social services, part-time work, 0-hour contracts, and these kind of things. All of these in work relation that could be problematic for the households. And also that the working family permit that's related with the coefficient of children is not increasing sufficient to achieve the largest families. Because if you remember the first result related to the threshold, the adequacy is lower as the family size increase. So it's happened also when we analyze when we carry out a logistic regression. And so main preliminary conclusions related to the poverty threshold and rate. First of all, is due to the benefit erosion, one of the working family payment main policy aims, which is reduce poverty, is not achieving, okay? Because the amount of the working family payment is not enough. Because of that, the working family payment threshold has to be updated above the poverty line, just to cover also all the gap that it's happening before the 2023 or 2024. It says that removing the take-up barriers has a stronger poverty reduction up to 2020 because of the same that I commented previously, and the other is related with the benefit erosion and the increasing in the cost of life due to after the pandemic. Our results confirms also different results that was carried out, for example, for minimum income schemes, in which the author, for example, reveals that the effects on poverty reduction of minimum income schemes are quite important, but we confirm, or we will try to confirm, that these results are also important when we take into account in-work benefits. And finally, that policy reforms are to encourage more working hours, because it's the main path to avoid a situation of poverty, but it's necessary, it's obvious, more in-depth analysis, because probably we are having interactions with other schemes. And the next steps of the presentation is, first of all, cover all years, because I say at the beginning that we will analyze 2014 to 2023, but the results are only presented for 2018 to 2023, so we need to cover all years. Then model all socio-demographic characteristics, and especially the interaction with other benefits, because probably the result will be so interesting. And simulate the poverty rates just for working families, just for eligible families, and compare the results of them. And finally, some robustness checks, mainly related to the equivalence scale, just to compare if the result changes using the OECD scale comparing to the average scale, and the different family patterns if the children are above 40 years old or older than 40 years old, because as you know, there is the point in which the equivalence scale changes. And that's all. Thank you very much for your time and for your attention, and comments and suggestions are more than welcome. Thank you very much.